It's late at night where I am. I really should be asleep, but I felt I need to just talk briefly on an important topic. I don't create anything for headlines. I don't jump on bandwagons. I don't do anything really. A lot of the time, actually, I create content after the fact on purpose to really not jump on the bandwagon of situations because I don't like it. I don't like gaining any sort of popularity at someone else's expense and all those things. Not that I expect to gain any popularity, but you know what I mean? Like you see it a lot. Something happens and in the world, or there's some sort of news comes out and there's people just looking to profit off it all the time. So this was like a bit of sweet. Like I was trying to think, should I do this? Should I not do this? So, most people would have woke up or or you heard in the evening or whatever, depending on where you live, that Charlie Kirk had been shot in America during one of his speeches, the things he does. He engages with people in conversation. Now, to put it into context slightly there, I've never agreed with any of his views. So I've heard him speak a few times in the past. I've seen his content on social media, and he's really grated on me, to be totally honest. I've always thought, he's so anti sort of fairness. It's almost like there's an agenda there, and I've never agreed with anything he says, pretty much. And so he does come across articulate, like, and intelligent, but it's on the wrong side of things, and I just think he's twists narratives. But so he was shot. And you're thinking, well, that's not right. Even just that in itself, even if you don't like someone, that's still not right. Because the reality is, we can all have our own unique opinion. And yeah, some people are more public than others with that opinion. And perhaps it can influence people. But people need to be able to think for themselves. And one of the biggest things in life is really be able to balance your emotions. You could not like someone, but it doesn't mean you have to resort to violence or you have to try and silence someone just because you don't like what they've got to say. And that's a real hard problem in the world, really, is that too many people are reactive, they're impulsive. And even if they're not and they're calculated, they're emotionally imbalanced. It's ridiculous. You don't have to silence someone for your opinion to hold weight. You can literally accept that other people have an opinion. It doesn't have to be the same as yours. In the same way, I didn't like the things that he said. We'll get a picture up just to show who we're talking about. So that's not the best picture. I think it's a really weird one they used as a photo. But I didn't agree with his opinion on things. But what did I do? Just switched off. Just stay away from it. You don't have to hear it, do you? You don't have to listen to things that you don't like to hear. It's quite simple. And I think the way people just get reactive and especially resort to violence and things, I always think that's like the lowest form of intelligence, really. Because if you're not emotionally intelligent, what intelligence do you have? There's no point trying to convince someone of how sharp your mind is when you can't even balance your emotions. So as you see with me, like throughout all my content, you don't see me getting heated, you don't see me shouting, you don't see me raising my voice. I don't need to. I'm confident in what I talk about. I'm confident in my views, my opinions, and I don't feel a need to try to force it on people. People can listen, they can not listen. It's like do what you want with the content. It's like that. It's just sad, I think, when people just can't seem to balance their emotions, and they have to sort of resort to taking someone's life, really, or even just harming people. It should never have to get to that point. You should be able to learn to walk away. So the sad part is, I didn't realize. I just saw someone else talk on the topic, and apparently his wife and children were at the rally, at the speech where he's doing his, where he's having debates and he's talking, and he was shot. And eventually, it's transpired that he's actually been killed. So someone literally killed him because he had a political view that the other people didn't agree with. And there's views, but everybody will have their own unique opinion on anything in life. Like you might agree, it's very rare people can agree 100% with each other. There'll always be topics that are divisive. There'll be topics that you don't quite agree with. There'll be topics that are taken out of context. Some of the things I say, someone might just take a soundbite and not reflect upon exactly the deeper discussion, really, of what I'm saying. And it's like, that's up to people to interpret, but it's important you take it as it is and be emotionally balanced. It's like, it's just the way people reactive, I just find absolutely mental. And again, for me, it just shows a weakness. It really does. And someone's lost their life because someone is emotionally imbalanced and has an immense weakness within them that they can't even live in a world where someone has a different view to them. I mean, how pathetic is that? That as pathetic as that, someone's lost their life because you can't handle having someone having a different view. It's just it's ridiculous. So let's say, for instance, let's say he's influencing the younger generation in perhaps even in a negative way. If that's how one would perceive it be. Well, then that's up to the younger generation to think for themselves and consider different narratives and sides of things. You know, if you're just going to listen to one side of things and you just and you jump on a bandwagon, then they have themselves to blame anyway, don't they? Yeah. Again, it can have ramifications, of course, but it's up to people to think and feel for themselves, not for someone to force a narrative on them. So to try to silence someone because you want to force a narrative is really, again, I don't want to keep saying it's weak, but it's pathetic. Someone's lost their life because someone's imbalanced. And the real problem in America, if you look at it, is there's too much access to guns and things. It's incredibly violent, and anything can be done on impulse, and that's just dangerous. And if you look around the world, that's not really commonplace anymore. America still lives in a very, I talked about it before, like a very medieval like time period of the world with modern technology. It's really strange. It's like the rest of the world's moved on from all that. If you allow easy access to things that can destroy, those who are weak-minded, susceptible to violence, are going to resort to violence, aren't they? It's just obvious. And so, again, you can, like I said, you can have different views to someone, but that doesn't mean someone deserves to lose their life. Doesn't mean someone deserves to lose their husband. It doesn't mean a child deserves to lose their father. Like what is justified in this? So how does this change anything? There'll always be someone else that talks on a similar topic. It doesn't change anything, does it? It just destroys a family, and it destroys someone's life. So everybody should have the chance to live a full life, and it should be really, but for the most part, time should come to an end naturally, for whatever way that is naturally. It shouldn't be at the hands of someone else. Again, for people to feel justified in taking someone's life in their hands, I just think it's incredibly shallow and pathetic. This was never going to be a long video. I'm not here to just bloat anything or go too deep with it. I just really wanted to really, really make that point that emotional balance is really, really important. It's almost like you can have an agree to disagree approach to things. You can have debate. You can just accept that someone just completely has a polarizing opinion of the world, and it's just a completely different outlook on life. And it's like, that's your prerogative. So like me and him, we would never agreed on anything because we just don't have the same ideals. And it's not someone I would be interested in having a conversation with. But I don't think that's justifiable enough to say that someone shouldn't have their own narrative and voice, though, should they? Because I think that's quite dangerous if you go through life forcing a specific narrative where other people don't have a chance to speak on their side. That becomes incredibly toxic too, because it becomes a point where who's right, like who is absolutely right, because you could end up silencing someone who deserves to have a voice, and maybe they say 99% of the things are wrong, but it might be 1% is something that's actually enlightening and groundbreaking and something that everybody needs to hear because it might change a conversation, spark debate, and all those things. But if you only have one narrative, it's like change doesn't really occur. And if something's corrupt, even if you're not probably seeing the corruption, then the change doesn't happen. I have this conversation to put it into context. I'm going to finish very soon because I need to go to sleep. But to put it into context, this is a bit deviating here. But I like the TV show The Last of Us. I love the video game The Last of Us, and my daughter does too. She's 15. You've got the characters, for anybody who doesn't know, you've got the characters Ellie and Joel, who are on a mission really to... she's immune to this virus. There's a virus. It's almost like a zombie situation, but it's created by fungus. And Ellie has an immunity, so there's a chance if she can get to this hospital clinic where this doctor can do this surgery, they may be able to create this immunity for everybody, create an antidote. So Joel was protecting her, getting her to this place, not realizing that it's going to cost her life, and it's not something he was prepared to sacrifice. So he saved her from it and caused a lot of violence in the process. Now, there's another character called Abby. Now, Abby's father was the doctor who Joel killed. And then she goes on a huge revenge spree to get Joel because Joel hurt her dad. And then Ellie goes on a huge revenge spree because Abby hurts Joel. So the reality is that you've got two sides to a story. And like my daughter is very much on Ellie's side and absolutely hates Abby. Absolutely hates Abby. And I've made the point to her, it depends on what side of the story you're on from the beginning, really. So good and bad aren't always so obvious. It depends on the side you're looking at. So if you were on, for instance, in this situation, if you had certain political views that maybe went towards what I'm forgetting his name. I'm not saying it to be rude. It's just not. It's not a name that's always on my mind. Charlie Kirk. So if you had the political views of him and the way he sees the world and society and his values, it's like you're actually going to think the enemy, if you're going to talk about sides, is the people who are progressive and people who think different. But again, it's just the side of the angle. So like I said to my daughter with The Last of Us, it's like, Abby's not bad. Abby's almost exactly like Ellie. If anything, if this all didn't happen, they could be good friends because they're very similar. They're both on a revenge mission to get justice, what they perceive to be justice. And by the end, they're both seeking redemption, to be purified of everything they've done, to seek something different, find peace. It's like this whole revenge, but the redemption story. And again, each side is very similar, but they've just got slightly different outlooks. But in this case, of course, it's quite polarizing. The sides are completely different in narratives and the way they think, in terms of like if you go the opposite to them, which is more like what I am like. But you have to understand that everybody deserves to have a voice, a storyline, and a narrative, and opinions, and all those things, because it's quite dangerous if only one side gets to, I think, speak. But anyway, reality is, it's like really important overall is that we all find our place in the world, and it's not for other people to agree with us. I think that's the thing, and that's where that's why I think if some people might find what I say abrasive because they're taking it out of context, what I'm trying to teach people myself is to literally exist the way you want to exist, and don't worry so much about how people perceive it. It gets lost in translation sometimes, but overall, that's what I'm trying to get across. It's like, who cares what someone else thinks about your lifestyle, about your choices, about what you want to do with your life? Like, what does it matter? It's just noise. You can either focus on trying to convince someone otherwise, you can try to focus on silencing someone, you could try to focus on a different narrative, or you could just focus on just living your life. Like, what's the point of getting involved all the time? Just get on and live. So if there's a topic, for instance, and it affects your life, that conversation, it's like, but does it really affect your life beyond the noise? Or can you just continue existing and doing what you do normally and it doesn't really affect you? Because most of the time, even in politics and things, yeah, decisions get made and all those things. But it's not going to change the fact that you're in, like, for instance, if you're gay or anything, it doesn't change the fact that you can be in a relationship with someone just because maybe there's sectors of society that won't accept it. That's not for you to worry about. You just get on doing what you want to do to make you happy. And it's the same with like jobs and all sorts of things, industry. You see politics, there's always going to be something. But overall, it's like just focus on your own life and just live to your fulfillment. So you don't really need to silence people. You just need to turn a blind eye to it and just say, I don't need to hear that. I'm going and doing this. It doesn't matter if the majority of the population beliefs are against your views. You don't have to take your anger out on that because, that's a frustration that's just not being healed. And I just think anybody that turns to violence when they're angry is just emotionally imbalanced. There's no need to do that. I always say this, I said it about in one of my books. I said about, like, would you rather be a bear or a wizard? Because a bear is just like acts out of impulse, A bear is just aggressive, it's violent. But it probably doesn't know any better, but either way, it's just working off instinct, whereas a wizard actually can sort of manipulate situations into their favour, and it's like dupe into circumstances because they're easily led and all those things. It's better to be a wizard, isn't it? Better to be cunning, better to be wise. see beyond the illusions, and all those things because you're the one casting the illusions sometimes. Um, so yeah, the one that's violent isn't the most stable. And a lot of time they may do something they have to pay the everyone has to pay the consequence eventually, and someone that does that. And in the case where I was making the point of a wizard, the wizard potentially could be the judge. So yeah, just because you're the most, so some people are physically the most strongest, doesn't mean they're the strongest in the room at all. They could be incredibly emotionally weak, which means they're incapable of balancing their emotions, which makes them, which perpetuates a problem and puts them at risk of doing something that they will eventually regret too. So it's important to find that emotional balance. Otherwise, your ego will sort of like cash checks that just go blank. It's just stupid. So there's no need for half the things that people do. And it's up to people to, I think just focus in their life in a positive way. And like I said, just accept that people have a different opinion. That's okay. It's okay for people to have a different opinion. It's like, just focus, if you're confident enough in yours, you won't worry so much about what other people got to say. So if most of the world were against what I think and feel, it's no never mind to me. I'll just continue on my path, confident in my outlook on life. It makes no difference, you know. I don't need to convince someone if they really are rigid in their beliefs and ideals and things like that. I don't need to convince them to follow mine. It's not a cult. It's like just opening people's eyes, and it's them to decide for themselves. And that's what we have to do. We have to allow people room to decide for themselves. And people, hopefully, they mature enough to sort of like figure things out, and they're not just easily led, because you will get people that try to exploit others. But like I said, no one deserves to lose their life just because they speak up on something that they feel passionate about, even if it is the other side of something. So society needs to evolve, and it needs to evolve fast, because things like this should not be happening. It's just ridiculous. It really is. And it's just such a waste. It's a tragic waste of life with, innocent people suffering, because he's innocent to it. Okay, he's outspoken, but okay, he's outspoken. Not enough to lose your life. And then you've got the situation with, like the children and his wife. And it wasn't even that long ago. I think it was Salman Rushdie, where he was attacked on stage. It's going to reach the point where people are not going to be allowed near people. That's what'll happen. It'll be like everybody's at a distance, and it's like, because no one can be trusted. But yeah, anyway, I think people just got to be held more accountable. I think they just got to start taking responsibility of their lives and stop projecting so much on other people and be so weak that you can't handle another opinion of something. It's just sad.